Last week, we talked all about the term woke and what it means. Dictionary.com defines it as, quote, having an active awareness of systematic injustices and prejudices, especially those involving treatment of ethnic, racial, or sexual minorities. Now, while that seems like a positive thing, many politicians are trying to rebrand it as a negative thing, including Ron DeSantis, who's declared a war on woke culture, especially in businesses and schools. But is that really a winning strategy? That's the question, because there is a new poll. So check this out. This poll shows that a majority of people, 56%, see woke as a good thing, and only 39% actually view it as negative. So there are also reports that many young Republicans are begging older party leaders to stop using the term altogether. DBL Nation, we always want to hear from you. Do you see woke as a positive or a negative thing? Please go to dblvote.com to weigh in. What do we think of this new poll? What would you say, Jeff?
First of all, I think this poll is a little misleading, right? Do you like it, yes or no? It's a little confusing to me, and I hate polls in general, right? I think what it should say is, hey, if I have a friend in town and we're going to go out to lunch, and I'm just a heads up, they're really woke, would you be interested in coming with me? I wouldn't. Okay, so that's what the poll should say. And the reason I say this, because there's two sides of woke. Do I think people should be awakened to the Black Lives Matter movement, how black people are treated in this country, how women are treated in this country, any marginalized group treated in this country? Absolutely. You'd be ignorant not to be awoken to that, right? That's where it comes from. When I'm up here talking and I say my spirit animal's this, or my tribe feels this way, or my totem pole, and you write me and say you want me canceled because of words that I use when I'm not deliberately offending anybody, but they're in my vernacular, and that's how I talk, but somehow you want to use that and make yourself a victim about what I'm saying, then absolutely I'm against that, right? So I'm for it and against it. Why is there a middle ground? Why isn't there a middle ground? Because it's politicized, and they're using it, and the Republicans are overusing the word, and the far left is overusing the word. Yeah, overusing the word. Yeah. And it's like that, and again, pin us against each other. That's what we're doing. Everything comes down to political.
Wait, so Jeff's saying there's normalcy in the middle, Tori.
What? How do you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, does that exist anymore?
Yeah, it does.
I think in real life it does.
And think about what you just said. The younger Republicans don't want this woke word. This is just a dog whistle. It's like I always say red meat to the lion. This doesn't really mean woke. So what I agree with Jeff is, when I say, do you think woke is a positive or negative thing, I'm speaking German and you might be speaking French with the way we define woke. We're not having the same conversation. And if you're not having the same conversation, what are we debating? You're debating drag queens and I'm trying to talk about real social justice when I think we're not on the same planet. So I like the idea of new, younger Republicans saying, this isn't going to do well in the general election. Move on. No drag queen is killing and shooting up or whatever you want to talk about, immigrant at the border. Move on to actual issues that matter, because this is a waste of our time.
So do you think, to Tori's point, do you think that Ron DeSantis should abandon his political strategy to garner his base about wokeness and being anti-woke?
Well, it has not hurt him in Florida. I mean,
But will it hurt him in general? Then when he goes to a general public against a Democrat, will that stick? I'm not sure the broad Americans feel like from that poll that that's such a bad thing. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's what the whole show is about. But and honestly, you gave me something to think about there. But I would think you have to look at if we're talking about strictly political strategy, you look at like your local election, in this case, the state of Florida, and the general. It works probably in the state of Florida. There are older voters there that probably connect to that word, and they're like, my granddaughter tells me I don't say the right words, and so that's going to resonate with them. But if he does get the nomination and goes to the national level, he can, being from Florida, he can quickly switch to the red meat you were talking about, which is immigration, and kind of leave that woke term behind. So I think in terms of strategy, it works. And going off what you were saying, Jeff, on a personal level, I don't think people realize, Sammy, there have been times you got people in your family that you love, people we love in our family. Everybody watching has been like, hey, granddad, people don't say that anymore. Hey, dad, stop, don't say that. And he's like, why? And you're like, I'll tell you in the car. And you're not going to call your dad a sexist. You'll be like, hey, people don't. I'll tell you a quick story about myself and how I understand that a lot of times it comes from a good place. I was on stage one time and a friend of mine was in the audience, and I was searching for a word and somebody yelled it out, and I was like, thank you so much, sweetheart. And I didn't realize how insulting that was, because when I grew up, my dad used the word sweetheart to refer to my sister and the women that we love, so I saw it as a term. But when she explained it, I was like,
condescending.
I was like, oh, good job, sweetheart. You know, it sounds bad, but it was coming from a good place. So that conversation is there to be had, but they're not trying to have that on the two major networks. They're trying to have
it's a different
conflict.
language.
But there's no solution. That's my problem. First of all, thank you for your story. I agree with all three of you, but that doesn't change where we go forward from here. That's what worries me. And I know if you really were to find a solution about holding people accountable when they write sensational headlines that are specifically there to get people to click and anger them and divide, I mean, because that's what works, there's no repercussions for that. And if you try to stamp down on facts matter, if you say on this television show that something is not truth or it's disinformation, what are the consequences? There are none. But how do you have consequences without infringing on freedom of speech?
I push back and say there was in the voting. You saw in the midterms, you saw people not going for disinformation. Carrie Lake didn't win because we didn't want that. Joe Biden won because people didn't want that. So I push back a little that there is consequences, and you see when people vote.
I know we have to move to the next story. We're in these groups, and people aren't intelligent enough to think on their own. So they read a headline like you're talking about, or they see something on their Facebook or whatever it may be, and they just stick to their team. It doesn't matter what their team is saying. I'm with this guy. I'm with that girl. I'm with this person. No matter what. And you have their back. There is no rational thinking saying, you know what, I might be liberal, but this person said this, and they're wrong. But I'm still liberal, right? Republicans, same thing. Race, ethnicity, all of it.
But there's no
sexual orientation.
I know.
Nobody wants to take one for their team and be like, my team's wrong. Their team is never wrong, and how dare you accuse my team of this?
But it's scary because there are only two teams.
That is the problem. Okay, so let's continue on with this, because I want to know, how do you feel about what happened on January 6th? Because it is back in the news again, which is very upsetting to some Republicans who'd rather it just all go away. So why is it making headlines again? Well, Tucker Carlson went all in, showing cherry-picked footage from that day, falsely claiming the riot was peaceful and characterizing most of the people involved as just sightseers. In one example, he showed footage of police calmly escorting the QAnon shaman to the Senate floor. What Tucker failed to show his viewers was footage like this, you guys, of people violently attacking Capitol police officers, which disproves his claim. Senate Republicans like Mitch McConnell are speaking out now against Tucker Carlson, saying it is a mistake to mischaracterize what happened. But some House Republicans, including Kevin McCarthy, are defending Tucker, saying he's finally exposing the truth. So what do you think of Tucker trying to rebrand January 6th? And is this a good idea politically, Tori, to put the Capitol riots back in the news cycle?
You want to see my blood boil? This is my blood boiling. This is lying. So here's what I say. One, if you're a Fox watcher, are you mad? I want to know. I want you to write me and tell me, do you feel like a con? Do you feel grifted? Because this man is saying, I passionately dislike this. I think that January 6th attacks are bad. And then he's showing you this, and he's like, privately,
he's texting one thing.
Right. So that is called a con job. Okay, that's a snake oil salesman. And when I say this, I mean this in the deepest respect. If I were Capitol Police, I would sue so much money for defamation, because you know what one part of defamation is? Reckless disregard for the truth. That's exactly what he did, and the word reckless is important here. This is dangerous. This is a lie, and you're continuing it. First of all, it's a bad strategy. Stupid. Why are we going back to this? Secondly, you're lying. And I just hope people use some critical thinking, like you're saying, to realize I'm being lied to. I'm being
you need critical thinking.
You do.
No, you do. Because it goes back to my point about the teams.
Otherwise, it's my team or your team. Exactly.
How would you feel if one of your family members was one of the people that were assaulted or lost their lives?
Family. That's right.
How would you feel?
Sue. Oh, I
would, as a family member, I would want to scream from the rooftops, how dare you dishonor my loved one's life?
When you even know better, and we know that you know better. What a liar.
So what are the consequences, Tori? That's what I was talking about.
Because we're talking about it now, and I hear many Fox viewers are really upset. Perhaps that will go up the ladder. Perhaps they will make some changes. This is a defamation case of First Amendment law. This is how you do it. This is what he did. He lied. He should be sued.
It seems like the people in the House aren't happy with it either. So people are changing.
They are changing.
Because they know it's a losing strategy.
But that, to me, I like that.
Right.
We're wrong. This is wrong. I'm telling you, even though you're on my team, you're wrong. Call people out. Hold people accountable. You could still be on that team, but when you're wrong, say you're wrong.
That's right.
And your reaction shows that honesty resonates with people.
Yeah.
Just there.
Let's take a look at our viewers. 53% of you, we're going back to woke, believe that it's negative. 47% of you believe it is positive. That is interesting.